shifting out of time-space to be here. It may appear the same outwardly, but the feeling is very different. Shifting out of time-space to be here. So we shift out of separation to be here, to be present. Shift out of time, space and separation, a mind locked in separation that externally appears to be the case. And we shift into presence, into timelessness, into the inner realms where connection is what is felt, because within us we sense that other forms of life are also life. We can see this outside, but the seeing is overridden by the forms that shape the expression of spirit. Like we see individual people, we see individual animals, we see individual houses, we see individual everything, and we see groups of individuals, and we see unity as collectives of individuals. But in presence we are tapping into a unity, an innate spiritual unity that is beyond a collection of forms, because it's formless, and yet it is felt, although it cannot be seen in terms of forms, it is seen in terms of felt experience. So shifting out of time-space to be here, it may appear the same outwardly. So whether your internal realms are seen in terms of time and space, or seen in terms of unity, whether that is your state of being, time and space or unity, and you are therefore looking out in time and space or in unity, that is what you will see. And to outward appearances, it might not look different. I mean, someone walking through the street in unity, a sense of unity, and walking through the street in a sense of time and space separation, I mean, you might notice differences in the way they move, differences in the way they look, differences in the way they hold their body, perhaps, but ultimately the outer appearances, whether someone is in an internal state of duality or an internal state of non-duality, the external appearances may remain the same. But the feeling is very different. So shifting out of time-space to be here, it may appear the same outwardly, but the feeling is very different. And that feeling is your state in which you operate, your state of being. So you can have many states of being, but the ultimate state of being is peace, is a unity beyond form, is timelessness, is essence, is present moment, is your true self. Shifting out of time-space to be here, it may appear the same outwardly, but the feeling is very different. So the feeling is very different between being in time-space and being here. So whichever one you're in, that feeling is your state in which you operate in the world. It is your direct interface, your calibration of consciousness. This direct experiential feeling state is yours to ground, to elevate, to direct toward the light of consciousness, or the light of the sun, or the light of your true self, however you want to see it, however you want to describe it. But however people describe it, in whatever tradition they come from, the other traditions, like when someone's got it, when someone sees this spiritual essence, they understand other descriptions that point towards this spiritual essence, even if they don't use the same signs and symbols. There's an understanding there. So this direct experiential feeling state, whatever feeling state you're in, is yours to ground, to elevate, to direct toward the light of consciousness, the sun, as you see fit and necessary. So depending on what stage you're at, you might not want to be directing your consciousness towards spirit. You might be directing your consciousness towards a specific aspect or strand of our experience in time and space, of your experience in time and space. And that's fine. But ultimately we come back round to directing our experience towards consciousness we came from, because that is the game. They are the parameters. Consciousness is all there is, so you're going to come back to it at some point. Sunbeams from the sun. So like I said before, like this beautiful idea of all that is being the sun, and the sunbeams, the individual sunbeams that we can sometimes perceive, shining, are the individual souls. So one spirit, and from this spirit come the individual souls, or the sunbeams. So the sunbeam from the sun, but there comes a point where the sunbeam stops pretending it's separate. It's shone its way through time and space. It's experienced what it needs to experience in time and space. It's experienced moving away from the sun, and it starts to kind of get so distant from the sun that it forgets the sun, and it starts to feel lost. And then the conscious spiritual journey begins, where it's all a spiritual journey, but the conscious spiritual journey of coming back to source, back to that sun, is where the individual, that sunbeam, starts to go out so far that it starts to lose its original light, therefore lack meaning within, and embark on a quest to re-establish it. And that means, for the sunbeam, realising that it is not its own thing in its own right, it is an extension of the sun. The individual soul seeks to return through the journey to the universal soul. So we can see it like that. The sunbeam as the individual soul, and the sun as the universal soul. So from sunbeams shine out, and the sunbeam takes its own journey, it kind of reaches the limits of experience, and the only way for the soul to re-establish itself in meaning is to remember that it is not a separate thing from the sun. It is the extension of the sun. And in remembering that it is that same energy as the sun, just like you remembering that you are the same energy of consciousness that you were born from, you bridge the gap between you and all that is. You overcome the duality, you embrace who you are by seeing that the sunbeam and the sun is just one, because all is just one. And it's like we've wedged ourselves between little self and big self. We've wedged separation between who we appear to be and who we actually are. We've wedged separation between little me and universe. We've kind of, all it is consciousness, and if our consciousness doesn't see that, then it's fragmented, and one fragment stands between other fragments. It's like, and it's just like an arrangement of fragments which can appear quite futile. So and the reason this happens is because time and space, we get lost in appearances, we get lost in what is called maya, or illusion. We get lost in the appearance of reality, the form that reality takes, rather than the formlessness that reality ultimately is. It's all reality, but fundamentally reality starts formless, takes on form, sheds form, returns to formlessness. So by the individual expressions, remembering that they are part of the whole, by remembering their true nature, this is the same as remembering that they are part of the whole, because the whole is true nature. These apparent individuals start returning, and this may be in one life, it may be over many lives, returning by seeing, what have I written there? Yeah, start returning by seeing their true essence. So individuals, we as individuals, we may feel that we are floating out in time and space, disconnected and separate. And relatively, if we break it down, if we break consciousness down into individuals, into expressions, then we are floating about in time and space. But an individual can come to feel that there is an essence which runs deeper than that, and eventually this is what we all come to. We come to see that essentially and ultimately we may take on individual form, but we are not separate. The sunbeam is not separate from the sun. We are all one. And this is the truth of who we are. Okay, so establishing ourselves in this truth, this is primary. Knowing your centre, you are able to move out in any and all directions. So we come to know our centre, and then it's no longer like a discord of separate thing knocking around in separate places. We know our centre, we can head out in all directions, knowing that each one of those directions is a reach out of consciousness into where it wants to go. You know, north, east, south, west, up or down, in, out. We can choose. We can choose which way we want to go. But established in spirit, in the truth of who we are, we know why we are moving. We know why we are traversing time and space. We know why we are taking direction. Because we are consciousness exploring. It's not a meaningless, haphazard, random occurrence. Life is not this. It may appear to be this, and it may express itself like this to people who aren't aware of spirit, of spiritual nature. But that's only because they need to go through that and go through that suffering in order to realise that that doesn't work, that that perception, that way of looking at things doesn't work. It doesn't create a world of meaning, because it is a perspective of meaninglessness. So you take a perspective of meaninglessness and all you get is meaninglessness. You take a perspective of meaning and all you get is meaning, you know. So this stuff, provable or unprovable, the proof is in your direct experience. The proof is in your direct experience. But whether you have that or not, I mean, choose meaninglessness or choose meaning. I know which one I choose, you know, it's not a difficult decision, is it? Do you want meaning in your life, or do you want to live like meaning doesn't exist here? Meaning is all there is here. This is who you are. You are a form of consciousness, and you are all consciousness forming itself, so that it can know itself. Consciousness taking on different suits, different costumes, in order to explore its nature in different situations. All costumes, all situations being of consciousness also. So we have freedom to choose. We have freedom to choose. And yet when you know all is consciousness, then the only freedom you have is to align with consciousness or not align with consciousness, because there's nothing else happening. Consciousness is all there is. So I've written, you are completely free to align to the ultimate God consciousness you are. So this is our only freedom. The journey is determined. We go from source through time and space back to source. That much is determined. But within that we have free will. So within all consciousness we have free will to do exactly what we choose to do. And this is consciousness choosing. Whether we go with consciousness or go against consciousness, ultimately it's all the process of consciousness that holds it. Like I say, the duality is held in oneness. The right and the wrong is held in this oneness that just allows, this oneness of love, of the source, of the life that you are, that just allows your expression to be as it wishes to be, knowing that it will all happen as it needs to happen because there is no other way. The universe is like a universal balance sheet, and we have to balance it up. It's how the game works. This is a game of our experience of who we are. So your only choice is to align or not to the consciousness you are, but ultimately there is nothing else to align to, so you're going to come back to it. You're going to come back to it at some point. In the meantime, you can choose not to align. So aligning to the essence of who we are or not aligning to the essence of who we are, that is our choice. It is a choice of life or not life. And in one sense it is all life. Like I said, it's all consciousness. But consciousness, step down into duality, is light stepped down into duality. So all there is light, but as it forms in duality, there's the appearance of darkness. So that duality of light and dark, light is what mirrors and is the image of our ultimate consciousness. Dark is a figment of our imagination to provide a balance to the light that is all that ultimately exists. So when I say it is our choice to align to life or not life, I mean it's our choice to align to light or not light. And not light is not actually real. So in the time-space experience, knowing this, it makes sense to align to love, to light, to goodness, because this is your ultimate essence. If you align to anything less than this, then you're providing your essence with an experience of what it is not. But the joy is in consciousness rejoicing in itself, light rejoicing in light, love rejoicing in love. We know this innately. We feel good when there is love, when there is light, when there is joy. Because it resonates with our ultimate nature, even if we can't articulate or express or recognise that we have an ultimate nature. We all want love, because we ultimately know that we are love. All we want is what we are. All we want is what we are, and we search far and wide outside of ourselves, thinking that a fragment of who we are cast out in space is going to give us all we need, when all we need is knowing that all the fragments are a product of the whole that we are. And so however those fragments choose to express themselves, however far they choose to go away from their source, their present moment, their destination, their timelessness, ultimately it's all conscious creative life energy. So beauty, the reward, the good feeling is in aligning with that conscious creative life energy. So we have a choice of life, to align to life, consciousness, principles of consciousness, of life, of organic life, as spirit unfolding. We can align ourselves within this spiritual, organic spectrum of life. Or we can align ourselves to something else. We can align ourselves to life, or we can choose not to align ourselves with life. And there may be nothing else but life. But it's up to us if we want to have the experience of not being with life. It all ultimately contributes to forgetting who we are, contributes to the remembering that happens later on, at the stage when your consciousness is ready to remember. So it's all consciousness, but there are certain principles of consciousness which it is beneficial for our experiential selves to align to. Self aligning with self, little s self aligning with big s self. Sunbeam, remembering it is the sun. So this choice to align to life or not, it's a choice we have. Life is all that is happening, so why would we not align to life unless we were insane? And it's been said that this world is an insane asylum. This world is the opportunity for people to experience what they are not, to live what they are not, in order that they can remember what they are. So it's like a place that souls may come to remember their essence, if they've forgotten it, if they've forgotten who they are. It can be a place where we come to do many things, but that is one function of this learning ground. It is the function of this learning ground, to remember who we are. So when I say align to life or not, I don't mean align to the current world system or not. That's not life in essence. That's not consciousness in essence. The systems that we operate in are overlays onto the consciousness that we are. And I'm not talking about aligning to an overlay. I'm not talking about, aligning to a label or a box or a grid of understanding that has been put on essence. I'm talking about aligning to the essence of life that we are. Life or not life. Boxed up and beautiful, time-space, expanse. So we are beauty, and yet we choose to box ourselves up for a time, for the purpose of understanding, in time-space, when ultimately we are always this expanse. Boxed up and beautiful, time-space, expanse. It's just when we box ourselves up sometimes, in putting ourselves in a box, we forget what's outside that box, we forget the broader reality of who we are. And you can't be anywhere else but where you are. Presence at whatever stage of the journey. So whatever your experience is in time and space, whether you see it as good or bad, these are simplistic notions like placed onto a spectrum of consciousness, good and bad. So simplistic, but sometimes we have to use words like this for the purpose of understanding. You can't be anywhere else but where you are. Where you are is beyond these labels of good and bad, but that's in ultimate terms. Where you are in relative time and space terms, you may be in the good box, you may be in the bad box, you may be having a good day, you may be having a bad day. So presence at whatever stage of the journey. Presence is presence, whether you're having a good day or a bad day. If you can be with it, that is presence. And whether you feel like you're unevolved or highly evolved, regardless, if you can be present at whatever stage of the journey, this journey of our evolution, if you can be presence at whatever stage of the journey is always presence. Presence is presence. Presence is this timeless essence of here and now that we are. This touching presence, wherever we are in time and space, whether we're having a good day or a bad day, this touching presence, feeling into, okay, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. Just feeling that, feeling your feet on the ground, feeling your mind in relation to all around you, feeling your breath, feeling the weight of your body resting on whatever it's resting on. Just touching these moments of presence, noticing what you're thinking, noticing how your head feels. Are you holding stress and tension? Or are you releasing the muscles of your face? Presence is just coming into contact with our being here and now. And in doing this, this is how we overcome time, how we overcome time and space and shift out beyond it. So I've written, practicing presence, we become it. Our consciousness shifts from time and space bound to situated in here now. And this happens through the practice of being present. Being present. This is how the reclaiming of our power, that is our birthright, our freedom and responsibility, how it happens. It's, like I say, presence leads to presence, and presence is the life light that you are. Presence, every step of the way. Don't wait till everything is perfect to be present, or you'll never be present. Because in time and space, experience is imperfect, yeah? The only perfection is in the ultimate, which is what presence shows you. But you can only access perfection through presence. It's like, and it's not, perfection is not in this relative world, it's not in this time-space experience. Perfection is in divine essence. That is perfection. Presence every step of the way. So we say the perfection, the imperfection is in the perfection. The time-space reality is in the ultimate reality. So if we practice presence every step of the way, if we don't wait for everything to be perfect before we practice presence, then we've got a chance. We've got a chance to be present. And it's not like time and space work where you have to do a 4-year course before you get to this imaginary future where you can apparently have more choices. Presence, if we're practicing presence, you don't need to buy any equipment, you don't need to pay any subscription fees. You just be here. You can do it now. That's the only time you can do it. And all it rests on is your choice. Your choice. And this is what is happening. This is consciousness choosing through you. You are the choice. You are the choosing. So don't be lost to time and space dictates that promise another time is better than now. It's like, this is the inversion. Time and space is in truth, time and space is in service to ultimate essence, provides an experience for ultimate essence. But the inversion that we see in the modern world is time and space taking priority over presence, time and space seeking to claim domination over presence. So, we have all these messages telling us that another time is better than now, telling us that another place is better than here. So, we get caught like this. We get caught like this in the illusion of that time and space will actually give us anything, when time and space cannot give us anything because it has nothing to give. It's only spirit that gives, and spirit gives us an experience in time and space so that we may realise and give our time-space experience back to spirit in service to it. Being here or there, in oneness or duality, it's all nature. Nature you are. Just let's not be neurotic about it. So let's know that the time-space experience, the relativity, the separation, is not a thing in itself. It's a ground in which true essence consciousness seeks to understand itself. And this is us seeking to understand ourselves, which is why we need to know who we are. When we know who we are, we can choose consciously. Until then we're blind, unconscious, confused even, and even that is a necessary stage. For we have to be lost to be found again. We have to have opposites of lost and found to have the journey. We have to have the apparent duality, even though the darkness is nothing but the obscuration of the light. We have to have this apparent duality in order that experience can happen, because remember, there can be no experience if we were to remain one, because what part of oneness, what part of essence can experience any other part of essence? We have to have apparent difference in order for there to be interaction. Oneness cannot interact with itself. I mean, you as a person can interact with yourself. You can create thoughts and puzzles. You can watch yourself moving your hands, these are interactions. But this is because even within ourselves we've created separation. It's like perceived, like me watching hand, perceiver perceived. Thinking is, it's like it's reflecting on the consciousness that we are. This is the separation that is not just an external manifestation, it is within our own heads. We've adopted it within our own being. And this is what I'm saying, we need to step out of that thinking in separation terms in order to find solutions, if we feel we need them. Life only needs a solution if it's not working for you, and if it's not working for you, then spiritual understanding is the solution, regardless of what the problem is. Like all these problems in the world, they're seen in certain limited contexts. They don't even begin to get solved because the only solution is a spiritual understanding. If we understand we are all one, we stop fighting each other. If we understand we are all one, we stop polluting the environment, because the environment is not separate from ourselves, it's all consciousness happening. We can't do another harm because we realise that it would be doing ourselves harm. So love, shifting and changing in imaginary concepts, aspects of the dream, of the one dream of life we are. We are pure consciousness experiencing itself, dreaming itself as something else, to enjoy the show of the imagination, for that is all it is, and return back in. So this imagination, it's time, space, reality, does not last. It's here for a time, for a space, and then we come back in. Imagine how you will. Enjoy it. Consciousness is here to enjoy itself. Life seeks the joy it is. Life seeks the joy it is. So consciousness seeks the consciousness it is. Just don't lose joy in pleasure unless you're prepared for pain also. So there's this, making a distinction here between joy and pleasure. Joy to me is like a love that allows it all to be, that allows the light and dark. So love allows light and dark. Joy, love, consciousness, it's the same thing, and that allows this experience to happen. And for experience to happen, we need duality. An example of a duality, pleasure and pain. So don't mistake joy, ultimate love, for temporary pleasure, unless you are prepared for that ride of pleasure and pain, because it has to balance itself out. So don't lose joy in pleasure unless you're prepared for pain also. We hold the balance across our lifetimes until we see the balance, hold it and transcend. So we see the balance, we work towards balance, we establish balance, and here we embrace the duality, we transcend to the immanent and transcendent love that we are. And on this journey we're held back to the extent we are ascending. It's like there's traction there, there's traction for experience. So if you're really burning bright, then perhaps you become aware of the extent of the darkness in order to provide like the opposite in terms of your experience. You're having It's the nature of this reality to try and maintain a balance. I mean, this is, like you see, any system is disturbed, any natural system is disturbed. The nature within that system, i.e. the system itself, seeks to return to balance. You know, pollution, nature seeks to purify pollution. It's what happens, you know, nature seeks to repair itself. You cut yourself, you know, you fall over, you cut yourself, then nature seeks to repair it, to re-establish that balance, that harmony. Nature seeks to exist in the harmony that it is. And so that harmony is like all these processes, balancing processes, homeostasis within the body, like all these minuscule and massive processes happening within us. It's maintaining this balance in life. And yeah, so we're held back to the extent we are ascending. So if there was nothing to hold us back, we would have nothing through which to experience ascending. And the more we are determined to ascend, the more there must be holding us back for us to even have that experience. Otherwise there's no traction there, there's no friction. It's like we can't have an experience of waking up, which is a beautiful experience to have, which many people came here to this earth at this time to experience. We can't have that experience unless there is dark, or the appearance of dark from which to wake up. So it's all held in balance. And why is it held in balance? So you can have an experience, so you can live the love that you are in whatever expression you wanted to live it, in whatever way you wanted to learn about yourself. We're held back to the extent we are ascending. Traction for experience, held here until you've had enough, till you've learned and shared enough. So that means till you've achieved what you've come here to achieve. The best we can do is go the way consciousness goes, which, whatever way we look at it, is the way we go, because we are consciousness. And that is the way of love. So again, it comes back to aligning to the love that we are. It is at once effort and effortlessness. Yes, all stages necessary. And I say it's at once effort and effortlessness, another aspect of the duality. You know, we contain all of it. And through understanding, we unite it all back into the one being that is our essence. Yes, all stages necessary, but many of us individually and collectively, we are ready now. We are ready to ascend, to evolve. And this is what's happening. To deepen spiritually, to reach the heights from the ground and receiving love light pouring in from spirit sky, anchoring in here now. So, yeah, we anchor consciousness in presence here and now. We anchor presence in consciousness here and now. It's all the same thing. So, you can say we anchor this in that. We're using words here. Words are of experience, words are of duality, words are of plus and minus, words are of that same duality that gives traction to understanding, you know, something to grasp onto or not grasp onto. But ultimately, all those words come together and it's just the experience here and now, and the words don't matter anymore. And then we come out of that experience and we enjoy sharing in words, or we come out of that experience, we feel lost and we need words to gain an understanding, you know. So I'm not knocking words, beautiful, but the experience of ultimate essence is beyond words. Words can only contain concepts, and concepts are born of thoughts, which are born of the fragmented world of time and space. Love, source, is the centre from which all else stems, from which all else spins and turns back in, to come back to itself. Love to experience, experience to love. Out from centre to edges, the far reaches of the dream, and these edges back to the centre. Once the dream has dreamt itself, silly, once the dream has dreamt itself back to the centre. So once the dream of who we are has aligned to who we are, then we're back to the centre. Once you have returned to that, to yourself, so that's the dream ends when you return to yourself. When you're fed up of the passing show, not just when you've detached yourself from it because you can't cope with it, but when you've worked through all aspects of it, and you've learned through all aspects of it, when you've finished all your lessons, then you're free to come back to yourself. And that's what happens. You come back to yourself when you've learnt your lessons, and never before. We are here because we still have lessons to learn. If we didn't have lessons to learn, we wouldn't be here. So don't let's kid ourselves that we haven't got anything more to learn. There's always more to learn. Yes, well, there's always more to learn until we're not, until we're not in the world anymore, and we will be in the world to the extent we need to learn from it. Yes, create outside, but know the centre you are creating from. So enjoy this time-space. It's beautiful. It's incredible. You couldn't make it up, and yet we have made it up. We've built this reality in which we can learn. This reality has been built, and we are learning within it. We're learning within this in the far reaches of our self. Far reaches of our own imagination, we're learning. So create outside. It's contributing to this learning in yourself and others, but know the centre you are creating from. And if you don't know it, well, continue creating in the edges as you are, and you'll come to it through exhausting your own impulse to be away from spirit. Exhausting that, and you'll start to come back to spirit. So know the centre you are creating from, otherwise you are just spinning away from yourself outside, and that's fine as well. If that's what you want to do it. And like I say, it's all stages that we need to go through. Because you are never away from yourself. You are not away from yourself. Never away from yourself, because you are never not here. You are never not here. Even in time-space, if your mind is somewhere else, the reality is you are here. You are here. We only kid ourselves we're not here. We only forget that we are here. All there is spirit, and it's happening now. Uniting the duality does not mean the duality falls and fades away. Just it doesn't dictate you. It doesn't have such a hold over you. Uniting the duality does not mean the duality falls and fades away, although it might do to your perception. For life on one side and life on the other side, the duality, is life on both sides. Is no sides, is just life, and you are it. No sides, just life, which is how oneness exists in the duality. Which is how oneness exists in the apparent duality. So oneness exists in duality. You can see that there's always different interpretations. So these words, oneness exists in the duality. That could mean in duality we can find oneness, or it could mean oneness, the way it exists is through duality, So where our mind is at is where our interpretation is. So whatever anyone's telling you, you only hear what you're ready to hear. And so this ultimately comes back to the fact that it is a self-fulfilling journey. It is you self-fulfilling, fulfilling at your own speed, at your own pace, learning who you are. It's your journey. It's your journey. Okay, so no sides, just life. which is how oneness exists in the duality. So here I'm talking about, this is how we can experience oneness in the apparent duality dream world. We simply give less sway to the ups and downs. We come to the centre of the seesaw, the hub of the wheel. Presence here, where we are. The centre of the seesaw. So we've got this duality of, like either end of the spectrum is balancing. And we come to the centre, we come to that point, that pivotal point of here now. The hub of the wheel. So everything is turning, but that very centre of the wheel is a still point. And this is who we are. This is who we are. Yeah. Chop wood and carry water. So there's this wonderful, I think, Taoist, or maybe just Chinese story, proverb. Like, what does an unenlightened person do? Chop wood and carry water. And what then does an enlightened person do in the world? Chop wood and carry water. So like I say, the outward appearances can be the same, but it's the inner state of being which determines the experience, because your experience is an inner. It's inner and outer, but your experience is a soul experience which is beyond time and space. It's a spirit experience which is beyond time and space, beyond form, time and space and form. Spirit is beyond this, although it can experience through this. So time and space is always time and space. Unity is always unity. So when I say unity is always unity, I mean one is always one. Timelessness is always timelessness. Eternity is always eternity. God is always God. Love is always love. Consciousness is always consciousness. Light is always light. So whatever it's self-fulfilling. If you are in a certain state of being, this is the state of being you see outside. Interesting. State of being. State of the world. State. Governments use this word. State. But where does it come from really? It's our inner attitude created outside. So if our state of being is one of separation, where we feel powerless, we surrender power to someone else, i.e. a government, and ask them to make our decisions for us. It's like and this is our state. This is our condition. If that's what we choose, So it depends on you, it depends on your attitude, it depends on your understanding, depends on your frame, depends on your willingness to take responsibility or not for yourself, for the self that you are. So you can access either time-space or oneness, separation or oneness, by attuning your mind to either. You are consciousness itself attuning to the different wavelengths and vibrations of itself. And you live according to what you choose. So this is how you access the realities. It's just a case of consciousness. And I think I'll stop there because this video is getting really long. So it's just a case of consciousness. It's just up to you. It's what you're choosing. You experience as you choose because you are consciousness choosing itself. Choosing what it is, choosing what it isn't, and ultimately choosing what it ultimately is, because there's no other choice. Not really.